Good morning, everybody. Marty Richards with Richland Center Tourism here. And again, we're adding on to our behind-the-scenes looks of our different tourism-related businesses. Today, we're up on Apple Ridge with Oakwood Fruit Farm, Steve Lewis. Steve, I think, is trying to dispel the fact, or it's not a fact, it's a notion I always had, that in the winter, spring, summer, you know, you guys up here on the ridge just kind of sat back, kicked back, had some cocktails, didn't do anything all year. And then August and the apples come ripe and you jump to action and away you go and reap the profits, and then you take the rest of the 8 months off in the year. That's not true.
Not true at all.
Okay, so, and I did know that wasn't true. But so today what we're going to do, Steve's going to give us a little bit of a look behind grafting. So first question I have, I just like plant trees and away we go. Why would we do some grafting of one tree variety or a tree to another?
So what we've done in this block is we had a new variety that we put out, and then it just hasn't been as productive as what we'd like. With, you know, a lot of things changed in the last few years. Shelf space in grocery stores gotten a lot more limited, so we're just changing this variety over to a variety that we know that's much more saleable. It's young trees, good and healthy, so instead of tearing them out and starting over with a $12 tree, we can just graft them over and in a couple years have a really nice block.
So are you taking stock that you already have and grafting to a tree you already had?
Yeah, typically you can either do that, or you can go to the nurseries and buy Budwood that they have, that they're using. Either way, you have to pay the royalty. There's royalties on all these trees, so either way, if we take them off of our trees, then we have to go back and pay the nurseries the royalty.
So even if you've planted a tree and you've grown it from stock and you got it up, it's producing, and you go ahead and you graft it over onto another one, it's literally a trademark almost.
Trademark for, I believe it's 20 years that trademark is on.
Yikes.
So there's some varieties we don't have to do it. If that is run out, like Ambrosia is one that just came off trademark a couple years ago. Some of the older varieties, you could go ahead and do that and it wouldn't be a problem. But on the newer ones, you have to pay the trademark. Okay. It's usually a dollar or $2 a tree.
Very interesting. I didn't. That's news to me. Yeah. Okay. So today you're going to show us how you do grafting and what variety do we have and what are we switching over to.
So these are River Bell. It's a variety, and we had about 2,000 of them, and we're just going to try cut our black back to about 1,000. But we're changing them over to Pizzazz, which is another variety. It's a newer variety, and it's just on the wholesale side. It's become a lot more popular.
Okay.
And so this whole process actually starts back in the winter. And what we have to do in the middle of the winter, you kind of want to get stable weather conditions, not where it's gotten warm and got real cold or anything. And then we need to cut our Budwood. So we go to the variety that we're wanting to change it to. So we went to our Pizzazz trees in the winter, and then we have to look at, we've got to get, this is the Budwood, and we've got to select a piece that grew last year.
Okay.
It can only be last year. And the way you can do that is you can tell it's usually just long and straight like this. There'll be no branches, but you can tell, you can see where the growth mark was from last year. You know, like on a lot of these you can see right here. And so you have to have that. You have to have last year's growing wood. Otherwise the graft won't take.
We have grapevines at our house, and I've seen that where, you know, we always have to prune them back every year, and it's like, oh, here's new growth that looks good. You always leave one coming out of the root along with the main one, and I understand completely.
So what you want to do is, if you're going to do this, you want to go back out. Usually February is a good time. Cut your Budwood, wrap it in wet newspaper, and stick it in the refrigerator, and just keep it cool. That'll keep it dormant. That's why you can't do it now, because they've broke dormancy and they won't take. They got to be dormant. And so then once we select that, stuff about the size of a pencil to about your finger is about the size you want. Anything smaller than that gets really hard to work with. Anything bigger than that gets really hard to work with.
Okay.
So the first thing we're going to do, and I'm going to cut this tree off, and I'm not going to do it the same as what you see over here, because I know this graft's not going to take, because I just got this Budwood today. So I'm going to leave this so next year we can recut this tree off and redo it.
Because it's not dormant. The Budwood you're using
The Budwood's not dormant. But this is the time of year you would do your grafting. Just as they're breaking, the buds will start to turn green a little bit, and I'll show you how to tell. So we're just going to take and cut this tree off. You want to make a nice smooth cut. We actually, when we're doing a lot of them, we use a Sawzall. Sawzall
sure.
with a little saw blade. Wood blade works really good to make a nice clean cut.
This is where I could actually help because I'm a champion with a Sawzall.
There you go. There you go.
That's true, actually. I've sawed off more lath in removing lath and plaster than anybody's business, and I've gotten it to where you can make that happen and not break the plaster next to it that you're trying to work
There
off
you
from.
go. Professional there. So what I've done then is I've come in here and I've cut this tree off, and normally we would cut these off lower, but like I said, I'm going to leave this top part alive for next year. So then you can see in here between where the bark layer and where the hard wood on the inside, this layer right in here is called the cambium layer. So I'm going to take my grafting knife and I'm just going to press it in. Ooh. And you can kind of hear a little pop.
Yep.
And then what I'm going to do is I'm just going to give it a little tweak out, and you can see that's lifted that wood away.
Yep.
You know when it's time that you can do it when that pops nice and clean. If it's too early, that'll pop and it'll be kind of stringy. It won't want to come off. And what that's telling me is now it's moving water and stuff back and forth, and it's ready to do.
Okay.
So now, where did I put my stick? That it. No. I lost my grab. Well, we can use one of these. That'll work just fine. So what we're going to do is...
So rule number 2, do not lose your grafting
That's
stick.
why I have somebody stand beside me and they hold all the budwoods. So what I've done is I've got my growing point. I want to select, I usually like to have 2 or 3 buds on there.
Sure.
So that way I leave myself enough.
Yep.
And so I'll cut that off to length. Now this handy grafting tool makes all the difference in the world, because now all we've got to do is we've got to cut our graft.
Oh, wow.
And see how that cuts that nice, perfect little angle? And so what I'm going to do is line up this cambium layer with that cambium layer. And all I've done is where this, I've popped this out. Now I'll take this and I'll slide this in there, and then just slide that right down till they line up. And I want to keep this on the edge that's not lifted.
Yep.
I want to keep that up tight. So that's put in. So that's all I've done there.
Okay.
It's really easy, especially you have the tool. You can do that cut with just a knife and make that cut. But the thing is you got to get that continual and nice and smooth. If it's wavy, it won't marry up to that very
That's
good.
got to take an expert to do that.
It takes an expert, and I've seen people
probably your dad?
Well, yeah, he hasn't done it for years, so it gets hard. And I have done it, but I've seen experts, they do that. They just walk along, you know, as they're going to the next tree, they just make that cut. So now here's the important part. I use electric tape. You can use grafting tape, or you can use a duct tape. It doesn't matter. But so I start around here. Here's the big thing now. Air is our enemy. So I'm going to wrap this as tight as I can all the way around. Tight here. I just keep pulling it really tight. And if you do a bunch of these, your thumb will get really sore. So I got to pull that tight, because what I'm doing is pulling that bark back down to seal that up.
Yep.
And go around this. And you want to be really tight, because you want to force all that air out. Keep that air out, so that way we don't get water and air in there. And that. So once I've done that, I've got that tight, pulled that up tight.
Yep.
Now the only thing left is I'm going to take a little bit of this grafting wax, and it's kind of like modeling clay.
Play-Doh.
But what I'm going to do then is I'm going to come in here. You can see there's a little hole in here yet where this hasn't, you know, it can't complete. Yep. So I'm going to just take that. I'm going to just squeeze that.
Seal it all up.
Seal it all up. Yep. And then we have, if you come over here, you can see where these are the ones we did last week. So we put 2 in every one. And then we have this, instead of covering that whole stump with clay, we just seal it around here. And then we've got this. This is like a tree coat. You can get a lot of times it'll be black or whatever, but it's kind of just a rubberized material. So we paint that all over, and that'll seal that whole top, seal everything, so no air or water can get down in there. And then they'll just sit and they're ready to go. Yep.
So right here on this block that you did last week, how many trees?
So we did about 250 trees in here. So we did about 500 grafts.
Okay, and that took you how long?
Took us about 5 hours.
5 hours. Okay. Yeah. That kind of blows my mind a little bit. So then the next question I would have, just because I've been on a farm long enough, what's the success rate of those that you've done? Do you expect?
Yeah, in the past, I can take you down here and show you where we did this block a couple years ago. We generally get about 99% where we get at least one, and about 90% where we get both the stick.
Okay, neat.
So, yeah,
wow.
it's really not as difficult as what people think, and the success rate is good.
but that's because you do it every year,
Yeah.
and practice makes perfect.
Exactly.
I suspect there have been some not so
Yes.
successful ventures
Yes.
in this.
Yes. Yeah,
Any
there
horror
are.
stories you want to share?
Not really.
Okay.
I mean,
No, that's okay. That's okay. Well, awesome. That's a really great explanation. I've never had anybody just show me that brief. Here's how you do it. Here's why you do it, and that makes a lot of sense.
Yep.
So, well, thanks so much, Steve.
Yep.
Really appreciate it. Oh, one real question, quick question I have to ask. So, which varieties did you do here then? Was it the same
yeah.
as what
so
we
this
just saw?
This is pizzazz.
Okay,
Yeah.
so this will be pizzazz.
Yes.
Okay, good deal. I thought, well, I better check because people like their varieties.
Exactly.
And so more pizzazz is on the way.
There you go.
How long will this take before they'll fruit?
So probably 2 years of growing, and the third year we'll set a crop on them.
Okay.
Yep.
So that's much
pretty
like
fast.
grapes are kind of the same way. And okay, makes sense. Well, thank you so much
betcha.
for showing us that part of the operation. You do not sit up here just catching the sun
Nope.
for 3 seasons of the year, I guess.
For sure not.
I've seen proof. So.
Yes.
Thank you for joining us, folks. We're probably a week or 2 from blossom.
Probably next week, the way the weather looks.
Probably next week for apple blossoms. So if you get an opportunity to just make a drive out Apple Ridge up here, that would be an awesome time to get some views of just a hill full of apple blossoms. So thanks again for joining us,
you.
Steve. I'm Marty Richards with Richland Center Tourism. Have a great day.